Red Meat Voice, I think listening, it is a listening exercise, as you can all see, and listening sounds simple, and it's something that we all believe we should be able to do, but it isn't always, because if we attempt to listen to an industry, it means that we resist the temptation to decide for people, and we push back on assumptions about stakeholders in a value chain and people participating in some or other economic sector. And that makes listening a powerful thing, because it means we create a space for people where they can share their realities within the value chain, and where we use that conversation on conversation to build patterns, to look at things that repeatedly come up, and to see what the signals is that the industry has or that the industry is showing us. So for us, I think that's what Red Meat Voice was about, and the listening, we are definitely excited about what came from it. So I think the Red Meat Voice study set out to listen. I've expanded on that a bit. Why did we do it that way? As all of you know, because you're all role players probably in the industry, researchers, academics, South Africa's red meat industry is incredibly diverse. We have different production systems, different geographic realities, different organization, different regions, and yet all of us depend on the same future. And I think before people move together, they need to understand each other a bit better. And where we set out initially to say, we want to know how to communicate effectively to this diverse audience. We want to hear their opinions about things like traceability and the levy. And we want to see, is the red meat industry strategy something that people are aware of? Where we initially had all of those targets and concepts that we wanted data on, I think the core remained that we wanted to create shared understanding so that it could lead to identifying the patterns I mentioned earlier, and so that it could inform industry decisions. And I think later on, when I discuss what our findings are, it's really about, is the operational realities of role players in the red meat value chain represented or present when industry decisions are being made? It's something that came out quite strongly in the research. So that was the objectives we set out initially for. What happened? We used a mixed method approach, qualitative and quantitatively, to listen across South Africa. So we had surveys. It was all based on or done voluntarily. Participants could voluntarily participate in a survey, and then we followed it up with interviews around kitchen tables, in offices of feedlot managers. It was a variety of things. We tackled 7 stakeholder groups. It was commercial farmers, emerging farmers, auction houses, feedlots. We wanted to initially not necessarily speak to veterinarians, but they form such a crucial part of this value chain. And I think FMD also proved that to us, and the data backed it up. So we also added them as a group to speak with veterinarians separately. And then we had an overall other stakeholder group, anyone that wanted to participate that might be a role player in one of the other spheres of the value chain. So that's the stakeholder groups that we opened the survey to, and we also had interviews with most of them. That's where the mixed method came from. All in all, over 2,000 data sets collected. But I want to take a moment and stop here. Initially, when people said, sure, 2,000 data sets, that's significant. And yes, we are proud of that number, and it took a lot of blood and sweat. And I can't remember if there were any tears, but it was quite an extensive exercise for a small research team. But I don't think the credibility of Red Meat Voice is in the numbers. I think the credibility of Red Meat Voice is that although there's so much diversity, the signals we picked up were quite aligned. So yes, we have a lot of data sets that we can speak from, but I think the credibility is more in what we found. And I want to stop here for a second before we go into more of the findings. it wasn't academic research. It was a listening exercise. And later on, I'll share a document that explains our methodology and addresses some of the frequently asked questions that I've received from people. I'll share it in the chat box so that everybody can read it. It was really a listening exercise. And if I get questions about, does it represent the full sector? It's a very difficult question to answer because we don't have clear data on how many emerging farmers actually exist. Even the definition of emerging farmers is still something that not everyone in the industry agree with. We can work on a sample size for commercial farmers based on how many pay tax at SARS to say there's 40,000 commercial farmers. So no, it wasn't aimed to be academically represented. It was really to listen and to start a process and to ensure that there's dialogue and conversation. And I think achieving that is what makes me excited. So what did we hear? I think every stakeholder experiences the industry differently. And originally we thought there'd be a lot of disagreement. You know what the conversations is like. People feel that some role players in the value chain are not necessarily making decisions that benefit the full value chain, or that everybody's fighting for their own camp. And we had all of that flowing around before we started the research. And initially we thought we'd get a lot of disagreement, but we were pleasantly surprised. People are more aligned in this industry than we all think. And I think that's a powerful thing to say. So yes, the real story begins, and I think we heard that there's shared priorities. Like I mentioned, we thought there'd be a lot of disagreement, but for all of the stakeholders, these priorities emerged as what the industry should be focusing on in the upcoming years. And I mean, we started the study before the real FMD trouble hit, and then we were still continuing with it while people were already fighting this FMD battle. Animal health emerged again and again as a shared priority. And I think if I had more time, we could go into what people are saying about animal health. It's about the ecosystem. How do we ensure the quality of our national herd sustainably for the future? And I'm sure you're going to hear it in the other research as well. Biosecurity came out, traceability came out, market access, and then finally research and innovation. How do we ensure that as an industry we stay up to date? Now, if someone like you would see these shared priorities, we probably think, yes, we knew that. But it would have been an assumption before the study. There might have been doubt about, do producers have the same as feedlots, for instance? That's a consistent debate in the industry. But the data really backs up. All the stakeholder groups identified these as priorities. And I think interesting for me is that although these type of priorities emerged consistently, what also came out was relational type of questions. So people would say, participants would mention, you know, who's listening and who understands my stakeholder group's reality really, because this is what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. I don't think people understand that. They would say, for instance, please don't ask me any questions if it's not going to change anything. It was very relational, where I think we tend to look at the industry transactional. And I think role players in the industry organizations are really putting a lot of effort into transactional things happening in this value chain, where our role players have needs on a relational level. And it came through the data. So those questions sat underneath many of the practical priorities mentioned by stakeholders. I think, like I mentioned, people don't necessarily want another survey. They want to know that they made some type of difference. What did we find? The industry is connected. It's not always coordinated. And I think if we zoom in on specific focus fields like communication, which I'll share a bit on now, we'll find that it backs this statement. So if we had to summarize a lot of what we found into simple things, this would probably be it. There's a lot more cohesion in the value chain than I think people think. It is connected. There's enough communication. We're going to look at that now. But these things are not always coordinated, and they're not necessarily always enabling the value chain, which is where a proper distinction needs to be made. I think for me, it was interesting, as researchers, if you're in the room, that we are a society that's quite survey fatigued. Add on that the industry faced one of its most challenging crises that I think's been part of its history, and we are still battling that. Despite all of that, people were willing to participate, and they want the industry to succeed, and they want to know that things are moving and things are happening to the benefit of all the role players in the industry. And I think listening in itself creates an expectation that there would be action. Someone recently asked me, what do we want to happen now? And I think it's simple to say that we really want the industry to keep listening, to repeat this, to keep the conversations open. So what did we find? I mentioned at the beginning that we spoke about communication. It was one of the focus areas. We looked at communication, trust, traceability, the levy, the strategy, how aware people are of RMIS, the structure, the value of the RMCP and entities like that, and how they are benefiting the value chain, but also the industry. We found that communication is definitely not the problem. I hope that all of you spend some time on the report. We try to make it as user-friendly as possible so that people can get a good feeling of the data with a quick bird's eye view. So you'll see that there's snapshots in the report per stakeholder group that's got more detailed findings about their communication preferences, which channels they want to use, how frequently they want to receive information, things like that. So those details are there. 20 minutes is too short to run through that. Interesting, the sector is definitely WhatsApp reliable. The informal networks of communication is trustworthy and quicker than anything that comes from formal institutions. There's definitely enough communication happening in the value chain. I giggle about this, but email is still the second preferred channel for this value chain, and I'm not sure where that comes from. In the interviews, when we dissect it a bit more to get that additional layer of data, people will say that there's so much clutter where they still perceive email to be one of the more serious channels. So if they really want to get something from a credible source and spend time on it, they prefer it via email, which was interesting for us. So yes, the amount of communication is not the problem. It's what happens with that communication. And I mentioned this earlier. The fact that communication happens doesn't automatically mean that the value chain is aligned. Communication should be an enabler. Just communicating is not the objective. It's what people do with the information, how engaged they are. Does it activate them to participate? Do they respond when we want them to respond? So just communicating is not the objective. It's what communication enables in this value chain. That's what the data shows. Trust, I think all of us, if we take a minute to think about it, we will realize that it's very natural. Trust is in proximity in this value chain. So, for instance, commercial producers, if you ask them who they trust the most to receive information from, a lot of them mention their veterinarian because it's someone that comes to their farm. They know what their reality looks like. They've got context about the situation. So for them, the vets are a trusted source of information. So it's very proximity based. Local, strong in the farmers association with their neighbor, maybe with the co-op in town. Trust is very relational driven in this value chain. And I'm sure it's like that in other value chains as well. The trouble is that trust that is individually based, an industry can't scale that. And what the data shows is that the individual trust is strong, but industry-wide trust is still harder. There's still some doubts about who we can trust in an industry, can I say, from an industry point of view. And that's a challenge that entities working in the industry definitely need to address. I want to take a moment and speak on participation. Like I said, there's lots of topics we could extract. I'm just highlighting what I feel is appropriate and what excites me and what I hope lands with some of you. Participation in this value chain is quite interesting. So stakeholders want practical outcomes. And at some stage, I mentioned to someone that I think the industry has a bigger participation challenge than any other challenge. And I'm spending more times with farmers associations across the country for the past couple of weeks and leading up to the end of the year. And we use the term skin in the game. You know, participation on farmer association levels declining. Participation after the session today, I'm speaking at a congress of one of the agri entities, a district, their annual meeting for the district. They said to me, if 20 people pitch up there, they'd be lucky. So we see a decline in participation in organized agriculture, but also in the value chain and in other activities. So the data is showing us that people really want to know that if I participate, it's going to be worth it and my contribution will be valued. And they tend to be hesitant about people in the value chain, which they think doesn't have skin in the game. The data was very clear on that. So I think stakeholders will participate when they can see practical outcomes, and you'll see that reflected in the data as well. Traceability, I think we spent a bit of time initially about traceability. There was a lot of doubts on where the industry lies with that. And I mentioned in the Meat Matters interview that the debate is really decreasingly less about should we have traceability. I think the big question for people is, and that's the data backed it up, not should we do traceability, but how can it be done across the value chain for different participants in their different realities. Yes, we ask questions, to what extent are you currently applying traceability? What is limiting you or what is preventing you to go any further? Is it financial? Is it the lack of understanding? Do you need more information? Our questioning was in that area. And I think less than 1% said we shouldn't implement traceability in the industry. Everybody agrees on that, but they are very uncertain about what it will look like if this full value chain apply traceability, get it right in all of the realities. And I think FMD moved us in that area quite strong, which I think we should be grateful for. And I'm sure if we repeat the study now, responses on traceability might be less awkward around how it will look like if a full value chain applied, because I think there's been some massive strides made by the system and how we can, practically let it become a reality. Okay, I think what it taught us, and I'm going to wrap up with this because I think time-wise I'm very conscious of what should happen. I think I mentioned earlier the challenge of the industry and the value chain, and what we heard in our conversations is not convincing people or participants of this value chain that the future matters. They care deeply about the industry. One of our questions asked specifically for stakeholders that engage with producers often, whether it's with emerging producers or commercial producers. We asked, what's the morale? What do you pick up in your engagement? Are they actively trying to exit this industry, to move somewhere else? Are they committed but frustrated? One of our questions, the tone moved to that, and it was very clear that people care deeply. And I think the participation rate also showed that. The challenge, I think, is creating a system where people can see that their contribution matters. And I've mentioned that, and I'm going to sound like somebody that's on repeat, but I think that's the challenge for this value chain at the moment. When people believe that their contribution genuinely makes a difference, they stop being respondents and they become partners. And that's what the industry needs. So I think I also Like I said, we started out very communication focused, very perception focused. What are the perceptions of role players in the value chain? But it's been so much fuller and richer than that. So the industry definitely doesn't need more people receiving information. I even want to go as far as saying the industry doesn't definitely not need another initiative. It needs shared understanding, and it needs more people that believe they are contributing and that their contribution makes a difference. That's definitely for me what it means. So my hope is that Red Meat Voice will be discussed. First of all, I hope some people glance quickly at the report because there's some really valuable stuff there, but that it will be remembered as an opportunity where space was created for role players in the value chain to share their realities, and that those realities was used to identify patterns that kept on repeating itself. I think before people move together, that's a challenge for our industry. There's a lot of new things happening. There's initiatives and projects and things that need to be adapted by role players in this value chain. But before people really move together, they need to understand each other a bit better. And I think that was what the aim of Red Meat Voice was. It gave us great data. And because the report is open, all organizations working in the industry could use things like the communication preferences, things like the channels that specific stakeholders prefer. They could use it to the benefit in their relationship building or in their projects and their initiatives. But ultimately, it was about listening. We wanted to create space to listen to role players in the value chain. I'm convinced that that is what we did, and that we got rewarded with things that was reaffirmed, but also things that we could actively work on to improve things for the industry. And I'm going to stop there. Like I said, I try to keep it simple because I know I can be quite verbal, and I know I was quite quick as well. So yes,